Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kelby Bachman, and please give it up for the next guest on the show, Dalton Jensen. So Dalton is from Missouri Valley, Iowa, which is about as far west as you can get in Iowa before you cross the border into Nebraska. At Missouri Valley High School, he was a 3-time place winner and 2-time state champ. Dalton started his career at Iowa State, where he was a national qualifier as a sophomore. He then transferred to Nebraska-Kearney, finishing as a 2-time finalist and national champ for the Lopers. Dalton hopped on staff as an assistant coach in 2012, moved to associate head coach in 2015, and officially took over the program as head coach in 2016. Now as head coach, he has led the Lopers to 2 national team titles, including one this past season. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy head coach Dalton Jensen. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoria.coffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee. What you been up to? Oh, were you at U20s and U23s?
I sent a couple assistant coaches there, so yeah, we had 5 guys competing, and then and then Crew Howard, our heavyweight, took second.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
you weren't there?
a big deal.
What were you doing?
No, well, we have Andrew took one of my other assistants. I have an assistant that I don't want to say he's volunteer, but he's on a small stipend. So if I can reward him with going to some fun stuff, and he wanted to go, so I kind of ended up being odd man out. So,
is that okay though? Like, give yourself a break.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously being head coach, you got a little bit more responsibilities and stuff outside of just the coaching stuff. And I got young, capable assistants that do a good job. So I was just going to be taking up one more spot in the minivan, so they didn't need me.
You guys took a minivan out there?
Well, from the airport at least. So
okay.
We wanted to maximize the number of athletes we could take. So you throw 2 coaches and 5 guys in a minivan for that hour drive from Cleveland to Geneva. And I didn't need to be taking an athlete spot, so I just let those guys go out.
Yeah. How cool was it that, Crew had a weekend like he did?
Yeah, I got 3rd last year, so it kind of gave him a little bit of a taste of like, hey, maybe I can actually go contend and make a world team. So last year was just kind of going to that event and seeing if he could place. Then this year he kind of had the mindset of like, I want to go make a world team, which, yeah, for guys at our level, that's not a very common notion or thought. But we knew he was capable. So yeah, made finals, and you put yourself in a spot where you're wrestling 2 out of 3 to make world team is pretty crazy. So he's right there. And it's not like he was just satisfied with that. He's kind of disappointed that he didn't make it. So I mean, I think his best wrestling is still yet to come.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Not crazy. Maybe not crazy, but like, isn't that something that you have somebody like that where you're like, you're good, but man, just think of how good you can be.
Yeah, well, I mean, gosh, he was a 4th placer at 220 in Iowa. So I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't ever going to project that he was going to be a runner-up U23 freestyler. So I mean, he's really just kind of, he's putting a lot of time and work, and he's just kind of a late bloomer, I think, too, just in physical development. I mean, he's put on probably 40 pounds of muscle and another inch or 2 of height since he got to college. So,
why couldn't we get some of that?
I know, right? I've been the same weight for like 20 years.
God. Yeah, I mean, I tell people I'm 5'6", and sometimes I'm like, am I really 5'6", or am I like 5'5.5"? I don't know. But
they can stretch it. It rounds up.
Yeah. Are you guys? So, do you guys do a lot of like freestyle wrestling then? in the off season like now?
Yeah, pretty much right when season gets done, we give them like 2 weeks off, and then we hit it back up. Mostly just to get through. We take a group of guys out to Vegas in April
Yeah.
for U20s and then the senior nationals. So took some guys out there in April, and then we kind of continue to train, obviously through U23s. But now we'll kind of shift back to, since all the freestyle stuff's done, we'll shift
Mm.
back to folk style mindset.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh, I mean, we've been taking guys. It's been a big priority for me. Obviously,
Mhm.
there's a fundraising aspect to it. It's expensive to take guys to those places. So, but it's been important for me. I think it's just fun too for these guys just to have something that's maybe not as much pressure I don't know. I mean, you still want them to go scrap and compete at a high level, but obviously
Mhm.
this the pressure's not there as much as maybe the folk style season is. So it's fun for these guys to go do that. It's a priority for us. I mean, ever since I took over the program, we've been competing at those two events.
Jeez, yeah. How do you get the fundraising? Kearney is not a massive um city by any stretch, but I mean, you guys garner a lot of support, which has
Yeah.
been awesome. Even at the high school level, me being new to Nebraska, high school wrestling scene, like the high school is very invested in wrestling too.
Yeah. I mean, it's unique. It's a wrestling community. And I know wrestling, maybe not from the outside looking in, probably when you look across the country, it's not really known as a wrestling state, but this community is really unique. And yeah, we're probably the big driving force of that. And some of that fundraising comes from running events. So, I mean, we have our camp coming up, and all of our events that we run, they've just like they've just really taken off. I mean, they're really,
Mhm.
really large events. I mean, nothing we do is small. Our camp next week has over 900 kids signed up. We run a youth tournament in uh, in April called Midwest Classic Nationals. It has usually about 12, 1,300 kids. We run another kids tournament a month before that has about 800 kids. We run a big high school dual tournament and club tournament that, I think next year we'll have about 700 high school kids at that.
Oh my
So I mean,
God.
and then our college open has been one of the biggest college opens in the country for about the last 5 years with about over 800 wrestlers. So I mean, all those events we kind of got it down to a science. We have a really nice facility for it. And obviously they generate revenue, but also it gives back to the community and provides opportunities. So I think with that, high school and youth, I mean, we've been running some of these events for before me. Mark Bauer, who's our athletic director and was the head coach before me, he's the one that started a lot of these. And so, I mean, some of these have been going on for over 20 years. And so, I mean, there's just a ton of opportunity to compete in Kearney where a lot of these kids never really have to leave. They're kind of spoiled with all this stuff. I mean, we have Parker Keckeisen and we have Amit Lore, Olympic champ, coming to our camp next week. So, I mean, I think these Kearney kids almost, I don't want to say they take it for granted, but I think they just think it's normal that there's
Hmm.
this kind of stuff going on all the time and that the high school coaching staff and the Matt Cat Kids Club all have multiple college All-Americans from our program that have stuck in Kearney. So I think these kids just think that's normal. And I'm like, this is a unique wrestling community. This is not normal.
Yeah, that makes me think, about yourself and growing up. You know, you're from Missouri Valley. I mean, what's the size of that town?
Like 2,500, 3,000.
Yeah. I mean, where did you go for wrestling, competitive wrestling like this? Like you're saying, I mean, they don't, it's just commonplace for them. They live in Kearney and this is what
Sure.
you guys do. But where did you go?
I was still relatively spoiled just because I was so close to the Omaha Metro.
Hmm.
I'm just 20, 30 minutes outside of there. But ironically, there was a even smaller town, Underwood, Iowa,
Hmm.
and they were running it was probably only two mats in there, and his name was Keith Massey, and he's
Yeah.
back in Iowa still. But he was running a club at the time called Golden Eagles and had been running that for a decade or two at that time, and had some real studs go through there. I mean, he's produced a lot of D1 All Americans and World Team members, guys like the Paulsons and Brandon Mason and guys like that had gone through that club. So that was just 20 minutes away from me. So that was just kind of like, the club scene has really taken off now, especially in Iowa when you're talking big game and Seabolt and those ones. This was kind of like the premiere at that time was the Golden Eagles out of Underwood. They were producing a lot of those Fargo All-Americans and guys that were going on and winning state titles. At that time, he was also the Lewis Central head coach, and I think they'd set a record for, I don't know if it was points necessarily, I'm sure it was, but also they had like 7 state champs in one year. But I think Waverly Shell Rock might have beat that a few years ago. But I mean, he was just a great coach, and it was about the partners too. I mean, they just had the best guys in the whole area. So I was able to go there. My parents would travel with me around a lot to go compete. They just gave me every opportunity they could that I wanted. They let me really kind of take the reins of it, and so I was able to say I want to go here, and go compete, and they supported that. They ran a Ace Hardware store in downtown Missouri Valley for probably over 30 years before they retired a few years ago. So, I mean, had a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of flexibility to be able to travel around with me and take me wherever I wanted, and obviously had the love and the financial support to allow me to do that. And I just had such a passion for it that they just really let me take off with it.
I forgot about the Golden Eagle wrestling, which makes me sound silly, but because I was thinking there was no best wrestler, there was no MWC, Nebraska boys, like Nebraska Wrestling Academy, like all these clubs that are present now in the Omaha area. I was like, gosh, where did you train? But
guys like that, even so, that have taken off from there. I mean, Zach Dominguez, who runs MWC, who they've had a ton of success over the last couple decades. He was the assistant coach there under Keith Massey. And then Georgi Ivanov, who runs the Best Wrestler, he had moved to the U.S. from Bulgaria at that time. He's a year younger than me, so I was training with Georgi as well. So I got to train with Georgi Ivanov, and I was training with Zach Dominguez's little brother, Isai, who was my age. He was a Fargo champ. So like I was kind of really spoiled with some really, really good guys. And then at that time, Zach decided to split off. That had been going into my senior year of high school. Zach split off, started doing his own thing. It wasn't called MWC. It wasn't necessarily called anything yet. But he was just running it out of the University of Nebraska Omaha wrestling room. And there was like 5 or 6 of us that maybe followed him over there. I love Keith, still do to this day. So it was no hard feelings. I really only followed Zach primarily. Also a great coach, but Isai was my main training partner. So was able to follow him, and it was like 5 or 6 of us that kind of started that thing out of wrestling, out of UNO wrestling room, and sometimes the college guys would come in and scrap with us too. So I mean, it was just a really good training environment for us.
So you're one of the original OG MWC, kind of.
I guess so. Yeah, there really wasn't a name to it. I think we just I think parents would just hand Dominguez maybe $100 and say, "Hey, does that cover him for the summer?" And it was just a few of us training, and they were all those guys were really good. I think there's 5 or 6 of us. Andrew Long would have been one of those guys too, and he would come up from Creston, and all of us had a lot of success. I mean, it was a really tough room, even though there was only about 6 to 8 of us.
Jeez. Yeah. Yeah, those are some That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, even being a small town, still had, and there was other guys around the Omaha Metro too that I would link up with every now and then. That was kind of the nice thing too, is there was since it wasn't like maybe the established club model it is now, where they're running 4 or 5 times a week, and like it's kind of, that is your brand. You are a MWC wrestler, you are a Seabolt wrestler. So now those kids are kind of really locked in because they have enough training just within that club. Back then we would kind of just bounce around. So I'd follow around. I'd maybe be at a different club or a different opportunity any given day of the week. Zach was probably running 3 times a week, but then the couple other days I'd just go find, if there was anybody that beat me during the high school season or had beat me at a regional tournament or anything like that, sometimes I'd just go off and go train with that person for a couple days, or sometimes even a week at a time. I remember going up to Eagle Grove a couple of times to go train with Mark Kist because he'd beat me in a couple of tournaments. And so I was kind of crazy then. I was just like, if they can beat me, I want to go train with them because it's going to make me better. So it was just always kind of trying to seek out opportunity to get myself beat.
That's an interesting mindset that you would go train with the person that beat you, you know? Um, I feel like normally it would be like, I'm going to go train to beat that person, not go train with that person. But,
Mhm.
um, nah, hey, that's cool. Props to you for doing that, you know?
No, I think it's the quickest way to learn. And I don't know if it was just like a stubbornness or I'm sure it was a competitive aspect to it. Just like, I want to go figure that guy out, but I also just knew like that was just gonna be the fastest track for me to grow in my wrestling because my bubble was starting to get bigger as I was getting better. I needed to go, a little bit further to go find guys that could go beat up on me. And so I kind of still have that same model as a coach now. I'm constantly trying to schedule ourselves where I know we can get beat because I think that's again just the quickest way to learn. So why we usually see our dual record being so poor is, I'm going and finding a Nebraska and Little Rock
Yeah.
and UNI. I'm constantly finding those duels because I know it's going to be. It might not seem like it in the moment that it's worth it's worthwhile, and sometimes our guys maybe are questioning why I'm doing this, but I think it's worthwhile. I think it showcases itself later in the season that if I can go challenge these guys early in the season, go kind of, uh, obviously one test them against the best to see where they're at, but also kind of it reiterates some of the things we're talking about and preaching, whether it's technical areas that, hey, you're going to get exposed to this situation in a high level match. Whereas if we just went and dueled a team that we can go beat 54-0, like you're not going to get exposed to those techniques and those important areas that it's going to be. You're going to see when you're getting the national semifinals that you must score in that position. These guys are going to kind of expose you to that. So I think it's an important way to learn. Yeah, so I kind of took that from my competitive mindset of training, even back in young high school, to kind of still carries with me as a coach.
Yeah. When did you start getting into wrestling?
I was pretty
Um,
much right away.
really?
I'm I'm pretty much wrestling family. Ironically, my dad was from Lincoln, Nebraska. He wrestled at Lincoln Southeast High School. He didn't start wrestling until a junior in high school, but ended up taking third at state his senior year. And then he came to
Really?
Kearney.
What?
At that time, UNK was called Kearney State. Got a scholarship to come wrestle here. Uh, Wrestled for 1 year. He qualified for nationals his true freshman year, and then he dropped out of school after that. He went
Are
and
you
started his business.
serious?
That was just kind of a different time, different
Mhm.
age and time. That I mean, just I ran out of money. Now it's time to go work. So he
Yeah.
went and started a business and took off from there. But so it's kind of ironic that I ended up here. But I had two older brothers as well, both wrestled. Um, so I kind of followed them around all through little kids and watching those guys compete. My middle brother ended up competing at college at Southwest Minnesota State, a Division II school, and had a decent career there. And then he's been the head high school coach at my hometown now. He took over right after I'd graduated, but he's been the high school coach ever since. So for 15, 20 years. So I started wrestling. I was following them around at tournaments since I was born, and then I think about 4, they started throwing me in I wanted to start practicing, and I think they took me to maybe a couple of meets. But so 4 or 5, I was competing in maybe 2 tournaments and practicing here and there, and then yeah, I mean by second and third grade, I kind of hit the ground running, and was at the AU state tournament every year and doing well there. And by sixth and seventh grade, was starting to travel a little bit more and compete at some more national events and USA postseason, preseason, stuff like that. And then it had probably been 8th grade before I started isolating to doing it year round and started freestyling.
So the way so immediately when I started hearing your story, I was like, oh man, I wonder how come you didn't get burnt out. But it seems like you had a progression. You started out doing some little kids tournaments a couple of times, then you went to AAU a little bit, and then you started to branch out. Like it's like you slowly grew into a year-round wrestler. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because now I have the perspective of being a coach, so I get to see the result of what 18 years of development and parenting and the outcome of what that looks like. Now
Mhm.
that I catch these guys from 19 to 23 years old, my my path more times than not would end up in burnout, would end up in guys not going and doing this at the college level, um, or probably continuing to have success because you just don't see those stories very often. You see a lot of those guys, and I always think that the Iowa AAU youth tournament's always the best gauge of looking at that. You can go look at all those old brackets and the placings, and you're like, yeah, dang, that guy was a stud. He was a 2 or 3 time AAU state champion. He didn't even place in high school, or this maybe he did okay in high school and never even went to college. So like, and I just think that's the youth sports in America in general. I think a lot of times parents mistake physical maturity as quality, like especially in wrestling where it's actually a physical sport and it's mano a mano. I think sometimes kids just physically develop earlier, and then a parent will mistake that as my kid's a good wrestler. Nah, he's just strong for his age, and he's just physically matured a little bit sooner than others. And so the parents kind of step in and they start branching out and pushing that kid a little bit harder than he should, and they start taking him to bigger tournaments, and he's still having success. But once that physical maturity starts to catch up, then they start to get frustrated. Like, why am I getting worse? Like, what happened? I think probably for me, a benefit I had was I was just never physically ahead of the game. So I was always the runt. I was always in the smallest weight classes. So I just never was ahead of the game physically. So it was always like a fun chess match for me in training. I was trying to catch up with the skill and with the technique and things like that. I think that kind of dangled a carrot in front of me that kept guiding me along. But I was super competitive, and I just had a really internal drive of wanting to be successful in the sport. So I think that my parents let me take the reins. They never pushed me. They never forced me. Probably almost to the opposite. If I started ever taking it too serious at a young age, sometimes they pull the reins back on me and say, "We're not taking you to a tournament this week, and we're gonna go watch a Creighton basketball game or something like that," just to step away from it because they thought maybe I was getting too serious. And I think something else that probably helped me is I wasn't good at other sports. So I was a good wrestler. I wasn't a good athlete. So I wasn't, by the time 7th and 8th grade rolled around, like when I expanded into doing freestyle and Greco and doing this year round, it was because I wasn't really having success. And I was doing all the other sports at some point up to then, like soccer and baseball and all that. And I was okay. And also with being small, getting into high school, I wasn't going to be a football player. So, I mean, I was kind of starting to see that, and so then I just started to isolate to it. But I loved it. You couldn't get me off the mat.
How did they get you off the mat? Because like as a parent, like you're saying, if you're seeing like, God, okay, they're 14, they're taking this pretty seriously, you know, let's try to, pull him back a little bit, so he doesn't get burnt out. I mean, did they have to do that to you? I mean, it sounds like they did.
Yeah, and youth wrestling for sure. If I was because I was kind of a poor sport. So I mean, when you're talking third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, I mean, if I lost,
yep,
I wasn't losing a ton. I still think I probably had a little bit of a natural knack for the sport because I was having success pretty early. I was placing top 4 at the AAU state tournament ever since 3rd grade and on. So it wasn't because like I was training so hard. Like I was just another young dumb kid that was putting in the time like other kids. So I wasn't doing anything extra by any means at that time. So I was having a little bit of natural success in the sport. But I wasn't losing a ton, but when I would lose, I wasn't taking it very well, and I would throw a fit and stuff like that. So they would punish me by not taking me to the next, maybe a tournament the next week or something like that. But by the time I got into high school, yeah, it was a laser focus for me. It was like all I really cared about and talked about. And so, I mean, yeah, they probably could have seen maybe I was taking a little bit too serious, but also, I mean, nothing was being compromised. I was still able to go. I was putting in hours working at their hardware store. I was getting good grades. I wasn't getting into trouble at all. So, I mean, I was a good kid. So, and then I was being merited with success, and winning state and things like that. So, I mean, they saw it was probably going to be a good future for me. So, I mean, they kind of just let me do my own thing. And obviously by 16, sophomore in high school. So, I mean, I was able to go drive myself to those practices in Underwood or Omaha and things like that. So, I mean, I just wanted to do it. And, it wasn't something I was never not looking forward to a practice or thinking this was burning me out. I was never giving them that indication. I was always just so much love and passion for it. It was all positive things that were coming from my obsession with wrestling. So, I mean, there was nothing, I guess, on their end that felt like it was anything concerning.
Yeah. Did you also travel in season to these other practices? Like, were you practicing like almost twice a day, essentially?
Um, Not too much. Once I got in the high school season, I mean, things would taper off a little bit. Gosh, in even anymore, I don't even know how the kids would have the time because I mean, they're competing 3 times a week anymore in high school. It seems like a duel on Tuesday, a duel on Thursday, and a tournament on
Mhm.
Saturday. So not during season as much. Maybe here and there over a break, or maybe if we had a weekend or a week that wasn't too crazy, like I maybe go meet up with a kid to go do a practice or something, but it wasn't very often. Honestly, I'd find myself where I'd maybe do a workout in the morning sometimes, and then obviously practice in the afternoon. And even sometimes, honestly, a lot of times, probably 2, 3, 4 times a week, which is probably too much hindsight. But I'd come home after practice, I'd eat dinner, and then I'd drive over to Blair, Nebraska, which is about 15 miles, just to go to the YMCA to go get some cardio in. Um, I just always felt like I needed to be doing something.
Mhm.
But now, like knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh, you're doing too much, and it would have been equated to burnout. And again, probably
Mhm.
just for a lot of different variable reasons that I just never hit that burnout.
Mhm.
But probably most people in the scenario that I had set up for myself probably would have. So all the variables that lined up for me, I think I got pretty lucky.
Yeah. When you were in season, you know, was it was it difficult to get pushed in the practice room at times?
My senior year, my senior year, my brother had just finished his student teaching. He had graduated from college, and he was a couple-time national qualifier in Division II. Probably could have maybe been on the podium if he wouldn't have gotten hurt so much. He ended up having a couple of back surgeries in college, but was still able to kind of when he came down to Missouri Valley. He'd finished his student teaching. He ended up getting a full-time sub position that first year at Missouri Valley High School, and so he was down there and he was able to practice with me. And yeah, he would beat the crap out of me. So
Mhm.
so with him there, I didn't really. I had another assistant coach that was a wrestler at Dana College in Blair, Nebraska too, and he could beat up on me too. So honestly, between those two coaches, they gave me my they gave me my lickings.
Yeah, did you ever, I mean, different time, which is funny to say, but Missouri Valley, not really a wrestling powerhouse per se, and you have the Omaha metro area right there. I mean, did it ever cross your mind to, you know, move on to, I mean, Lewis Central, Scott was obviously up and coming and
Mm-hmm.
big at that time. Like, did any of that cross your mind?
No, for sure. Especially probably because my senior year, I got lucky because of those two coaches. My sophomore, junior year, I probably wasn't getting as pushed as much in the room. So, I mean, that was kind of frustrating to me. I was kind of on a high horse probably after winning state my sophomore year. And so, I mean, that thought had crossed my mind. Even some places extreme like Eagle Grove, another 1A school, but like I
Hmm.
was as Mark Kist, who was a 3-time state champ, Rich Kiley, I'd beaten in the finals my sophomore year. Both those guys were my age. So like I could have went up there and trained with those guys because I was doing it in the summer a lot. So I mean, even somewhere like there, yeah, like you said, some of the Omaha Metro or Lewis Central, I had thought about those things,
Hmm.
but and I would say those periodically to my parents, like I want to go to one of those schools where I can have good partners consistently every day, and they were never going to move me, and they were never going to go send me off anywhere. So I don't. It was kind of a moot conversation, but
Hmm.
uh, I wanted that, and in hindsight, um, maybe if I would have done something like that, maybe that would have burned me out. If I was in a room where I was getting challenged at too high a level consistently, maybe that would have been the tip of the iceberg that just burned me out, and I didn't make it through that. So sometimes you think I was thinking I needed to be in that environment to be able to get recruited heavier or to develop more, and everything worked out for me. That was a great town for me and to grow up in. My parents were embedded in that community, so I mean, hindsight, I'm proud to be from there. I'm glad I didn't go anywhere, even though I didn't really have the option. My parents weren't going to send me anywhere, but that was the best place for me, and I think everything worked out. So especially easy for me to say on the back end, like I'm glad nothing changed because like everything, I feel like everything's worked out perfectly.
Yeah. When did you guys move there?
Oh man, I was before I was born. My
Oh, really?
parents
Okay.
lived in they're both from Lincoln. They owned a when he left college and they got married, they ended up they owned a hardware store in Hickman, Nebraska, a small town just south of Lincoln for
Yeah.
a couple years before moving to Missouri Valley and opening that store. I think it was in like 1986 and I was born in 88. So, I mean, they were there they're still there, but they ran that hardware store from essentially 1986 to, gosh, when did they sell that? Maybe 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow. A hardware store.
Mm-hmm.
Why a hardware store? I'm kind of curious. It's kind of random.
My dad's dad was I don't even know if you'd want to call him an entrepreneur necessarily, but he had owned a few businesses.
Mhm.
He had which kind of was the pre-Dollar General, was Ben Franklin stores. I don't know if you remember those at all. Um,
Oh.
yeah, they're called Ben
Uh,
Franklin stores, essentially kind of like a Dollar General.
mhm.
And so he'd owned like a few of those, and he'd always just kind of owned businesses. So my dad kind of had that mindset of wanting to do that and own a business. And I think the store in Hickman might have started off as somewhat of a general store, but then I think he franchised with Ace. And then somehow I don't know if is that what caught his eye about Missouri Valley, that building for sale or what it was, but decided to start his business there, and I guess the rest is history. So
I guess so. Did you ever, was it ever an option for you to be like, I'm gonna move back and I'm gonna take over the store? Like now this is gonna be a family business, if you will.
my oldest brother had kind of gone down that venture, wanting to do that.
Yeah.
Small town. I mean, it comes with its challenges. With obviously just employment, comes with its challenges of, I don't know, just the retail space has gone a different route in the last 10, 20 years. I mean, some people would rather probably go save a 20 cents on a hammer and go buy it at Walmart instead of their local hardware store. So I mean, a little bit of that. Maybe business wasn't as great, in the last 10 years as it probably was in the
Mhm.
90s, just because of those reasons. So, but my brother, oldest brother, after he graduated college at Iowa State, had his business degree and kind of wanted to come back and do that. And I think my parents talked him out of it, that it's probably not worthwhile and it'd be better just to go maybe find a job in the metro. And so, no, not for me. It was never really consideration. I've always just kind of wanted to. Same with my wife. She's from a small town wrestling community in Iowa, similar to Missouri Valley. Well, not wrestling community wise, similar size to Missouri
Mhm.
Valley. They were a wrestling community, Belle Plaine, Iowa, and we just never really had any desire to go live in small town.
Yeah.
I think
Fair enough.
Kearney is probably even the smallest town we'd probably ever want to live in.
Yeah. When did you have your sights set on like collegiate wrestling?
I went on all of my brother's visits. So
Really?
my middle brother, oh gosh, so he's probably, I think he was 5 grades older than me. I think I was in 8th grade when he was a senior. Maybe I was in 7th grade.
Mhm.
And so he was getting recruited mildly. He was a couple-time placer in Iowa. Not any fancy results by any means, but was getting recruited by a chunk of NAI and Division II schools. So I joined, my parents and him on all those visits, and so kind of got me a taste of like what wrestling after high school would look like. And I had started taking wrestling even more serious, and that's probably about the time I started doing freestyle and Greco. So I was having natural success again with it, or was doing well. So I was projecting already probably to do better in high school than him. So it kind of made sense that was going to be an opportunity that I was probably going to have. Um, but obviously, yeah, once you get to high school and then the success starts happening, then you already, by the time I was a freshman, I kind of knew for sure I was going to end up wrestling in college someday. And then so it was just a matter of just continuing to get better and keep exposing myself at national level tournaments to, attract as many colleges as I could.
Yeah, what was it like wrestling on the national scene? Like, did your brother do that? Because that's
Not
like a whole nother
really.
ball game.
Yeah, he wasn't really doing a ton in high school. Wasn't doing a ton of off-season stuff. He wasn't as passionate about it maybe as I was. He would do maybe folk style USA preseason or postseason here and there, but nothing consistently. So it was mostly just his high school season stuff.
Yeah, we went to Tulsa once, and like it almost like we were in over our heads in a sense, like we just me and a buddy went down there, and it was like it's like a whole nother ball game,
Right, for
So,
sure.
um, I'm curious. You were saying that you were starting to have success. Um, what were your expectations as a freshman? You qualified but didn't reach the podium. I mean, was that obviously the goal was probably better than that, maybe?
Um, so I mean, it was probably maybe in eighth grade. I was going to Tulsa. I was going to USA preseason, postseason stuff. So I mean, I was
Mhm.
having probably by seventh, eighth grade. I started having success at those tournaments. I was placing. Wasn't placing on the top three by any means, but I was usually just barely hopping on the podium, fifth through
Mhm.
eighth. So I was placing at those national tournaments. So I knew I was probably going to have a successful high school career. My freshman year, I weighed 90 pounds. So
That was my okay. Yep.
that was kind of, we didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
We knew it was going to be a tall task for me to have success, but we were hoping I could, maybe be, may have enough skill to maybe hop on the podium.
Mhm.
Um, and I was probably right there. I lost a close match to place. So, I mean, I think that kid ended up getting sixth. So I was probably going to fall anywhere from sixth to where I did, round away from placing. That's just where I was going to be at that freshman year, being 90 pounds. Cause like it would have been like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, then I went and wrestled at, the USA folk style nationals and I won it, but it was at 94 pounds. So, right. It was like, I was a national champ, but I couldn't even place at my state tournament. So, it was just a sizing issue.
Yeah.
But we knew that next year I was going to still probably likely be a 103 pounder, 103 at the time, and actually be cutting weight and grow into it. So I finally had a spurt that after my
There
freshman
you go.
year to
Okay.
where I could actually be a normal high school wrestler.
I was wondering, what the progression was like with you weight wise because 25 as a senior, I didn't know what your thought process was like going into your senior year, trying to prove that you can wrestle, because 25, obviously the lowest college weight, that you could prove that you can wrestle at a college weight, with as small as you were growing up.
Yeah, and I probably could even have gone. Yeah, going into my senior year, um, I don't know. I could have probably stayed up. I wrestled most of the season at 35 and 30,
Oh, wow.
and I didn't cut down until I think maybe January. And I don't know. Hindsight, I guess I don't know why.
I was going to ask why.
I just probably felt like maybe it's just probably just a wrestling mindset that like, oh, you got to be as lean as you can. And it wasn't like
Yep.
I've always just been lean. I've always been kind of a toothpick. So I was lean at 30 and 35. I don't know why. I could make it. I certified there. And sometimes you're just young and dumb. You're like, well, I certified there, so I got to go 25. So, um, but I was just kind of bouncing around, just always trying to challenge myself to wherever the best competition was for that tournament or duel. So sometimes I wouldn't decide. And luck, that was the good thing about Missouri Valley not being good at wrestling. It was like my coach would just kind of let me decide. I'd go to a tournament and decide that morning what weight I was going to go. So like if I needed to bump up to 35 or 30 or whatever it was, and then January I cut down. I think you probably still have a little bit of the mindset that Iowa State tournament. You need to go to the weight class where you're big and strong.
Mhm.
But like I think between the next couple months after season, I'd wrestled a lot of the guys that once stayed at 30 and 35 in a lot of those classes and beat a lot of them. So like I probably would have been fine just staying at 30 or 35, but decided to go down to 25 for whatever reason. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was necessarily to prove anything to any college coaches. It was, I
Yeah.
don't know. I just kind of felt like that was probably where I could be the biggest and strongest, even though again, I probably didn't necessarily need to go down to that weight.
Yeah. Did
Because I knew I wasn't going to be a 25 pounder in college. I had taken some college
gotcha.
visits, but I was like 5'9" at least already at that point, 5'9", 5'10". So like I knew I wasn't going to be a college 25 pounder. But I knew I'd probably be a 33 or 41.
Yeah. Did losing your as a junior, did that like reignite or like what I feel like that could have been a pivotal time in your wrestling career, after You win it as a sophomore. Now you're like, all right, I'm going to be a three-timer. You know, like that's just automatically kind of your thought process. But then to come up short and get third, I mean, did that like reset you in a sense?
Yeah, no, that was a big moment in my wrestling career. I mean, because I was putting in a ton of time. Hindsight now, because I can actually evaluate it more objectively.
Yeah.
Probably one of the challenges was me hitting a growth spurt and adjusting to a new weight class. So I mean, it went from 103 pounder to now you're at 119, and you probably could have made 112. Um, but you're at 119, so the leverage advantage that you had is no longer there. So adjusting there as far as strength and stuff. And I mean, it's frustrating when you look back and the fact that I know I was the best guy at that weight. I got upset, blew a match that I was winning 4-0 halfway through the match and lose, I think 6-5 or something like that. So, I mean, it's something that haunts you. I think it's also hindsight. I'm glad it happened to me and it needed to happen to me. I think I was probably getting to a point where maybe I was overconfident. It was also, looking at factors of obviously the sizing, adjusting to the weight. Obviously, I could have maybe been stronger for the weight class, and I wasn't. I was also just a pinner, so I think I faded late in that match, and which is frustrating because like I did so much. I took care of my body. I was doing a ton of cardio, but like I also during the entire season, I'm wrestling small class kids. So, I mean, I just wasn't always wrestling the best competition. So I got, pinning kids pretty early. So I wasn't used to wrestling a long, full match. So I think that kind of maybe rocked me a little bit. Getting challenged for a full 6 minutes. I hadn't really had that all year. So just a variation of things. But yeah, I mean, that at that time, it's like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. And
Right.
like, I can never go on. So, I mean, I took it pretty seriously, or it was tough on me, but it kind of elevated my training and stuff. I remember distinctly, and it's something that was like a big turning point for me. But like man, I don't want to sound like a crazy person, but like I took that third place medal and like I hung it from the rafters in my bedroom,
Hmm.
and just at the perfect height that when I woke up out of bed every morning to go between my bed and my light switch, it would hit me in the forehead. And it's like, it's funny because like over time I would start to figure that out where it was located, and like I started like divert around it just naturally. And so then, but it was like on the rafters, so I was able to like slide it, just like slide it over to adjust to any sort of natural adjustment that I made. But I just wanted like a fresher mind each day as I was going up to go train or whatever it was I was doing that morning. Like, hey, do something today that's gonna make yourself better. And so, I mean, I've always used those big losses or anything like that as a turning point for positive in my training or whatever it might be. So it kind of sounds like it was probably sick and over a little bit too much at the time, but I'm sure my parents thought I was a crazy person. But I was just so competitive. Like I wanted to be the best I could. So that was just my fresh daily reminder of, hey, do something today that's going to make you better.
Yeah, they probably walked into your room and went, "Hey, Dalton, why why is your medal hanging from your rafter?
Yeah,
What's going
you're
on
a psycho.
here?" How did you land at Iowa State in the first place?
Kale started talking to me.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay,
this has been the
right
time
on. That's all you had
Kale
to
was
say.
there. So I had done a few visits before my. It's crazy now because everything's flipping again. But like at that time, people signing early wasn't as common. Meaning just
Hmm.
even the fall of their senior year, a lot of kids weren't signing back then. So like I was still going to take visits in the spring after my senior year. Like that, not anymore in the last decade. That's uncommon. Like if you wait till spring of your senior year, you're probably not going to get recruited.
Hmm.
And then so besides, so I took a few visits in that fall. It's funny now though, because like now it's kind of almost changing again because like the transfer portal, and now a lot of these, at least at the Division I level, those coaches aren't even waiting to recruit. They're waiting to recruit until after Division I nationals because they know there's about to be a bunch of national qualifiers and all
Hmm.
Americans in the portal. So it's kind of crazy, but that wasn't a thing back in my day. So I took a few visits, mostly Division II schools, a few Division Is in the fall. Kale had started talking to me. He was calling me periodically, and then sending me letters. And yeah, we were doing letters still back then, because I had some success. I'd placed at Fargo and freestyle multiple times, so I was starting to catch the attention of some coaches. But anyways, after my senior year, won state, and then went on a visit. And gosh, not even until April, I don't think. So I went on a visit in April. Gosh, this is so uncommon now. Like, if these kids don't have a decision made up in April, they're gonna feel like they're homeless. So went on a visit in April, and then he came and did a home visit with me like that following week, and I committed on the spot.
On the spot, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I had no intention of. I really liked my visit. I thought that was probably going to be a really good option for me. My brother didn't wrestle in college, my oldest one, but he'd gone to Iowa State, so we were familiar with the university and the costs and all that stuff. Probably the only challenge for me was it was the smallest scholarship offer I'd received. So I mean, the financial aspect of it was probably tough on my mind. And so when he came and did a home visit, and again, I didn't really have an intention of committing that day. Still wanted to weigh my options, but I mean, Cale Sanderson comes sits in your living room and says he wants you to be a Cyclone. I mean, it's mind warping, and so like it was such an honor and privilege. So like I was so excited and knew that was the right spot for me. I knew it was where I could become the best wrestler. And when I'd set my priorities for college, money wasn't the biggest priority. It was where can I go become the best wrestler, and I saw something special with that program and what they were doing, and Cale was my idol. I mean, like, I had grown up doing book reports on him and watching all his film and watching him at the Olympics. Like, he was my hero. So I mean, the fact that he was sitting in my living room telling me to come wrestle for him was like, I couldn't even believe it. So that's how I ended up there, and yeah, that was the best spot for me without a doubt at that time.
Yeah. Well, I
didn't know he'd leave. Yeah, I got that same one.
Yeah.
You have the Hy-Vee soup can at all?
No.
I got that too.
Dang it. Nah, just the Wheaties box, I guess.
That's a good one
though. Yeah, so you end up there and you seem like you were finding your footing there, a little bit.
Yeah, I had a pretty decent redshirt year.
Yeah.
I'd won a couple opens. So I mean, I was transitioning probably. Honestly, I just didn't know what to expect. There wasn't flow wrestling, where I could just go hop on. I wasn't even really following college wrestling that much. I wasn't watching a ton of it. And again, back then you'd have to read the end of the month Win magazine to look at results. And at that point, they're just results. Like, they wouldn't have mattered to me. I didn't know. I wasn't looking at the lineup. I wasn't looking at any of that stuff to really know. I was just focused on myself. And so, I mean, probably having the success I was having, especially late in my high school career, I had a really, really successful Fargo right after my senior year. And so I would assumed I was going to transition really well. Like, I was a highly nationally ranked kid coming out of high school, but it ended up being tougher than I thought. And I didn't. Mostly it was just because that room was just so damn competitive. So I was getting my butt kicked, and I was just trying to survive and score a takedown. So I thought I sucked. And then went to my first open and, was in the finals, and I think I won the next open. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing okay. I just needed to wrestle some kids like my age. And I'm just trying to just survive in the room, and just surrounded by really, really good guys. So, and then so redshirted first year. The second year I was behind Nick Gallick. He was a returning third placer, so I think he was coming in that year ranked first or second in the country. I lost him in the wrestle off on riding time. So like I thought I was really close, right? Like, that's the number one or two guy in the country, and I lost by 7 seconds of riding time. And I got to realize it's more than that. I do now. Like, me being able to compete well with the guy I'm training with every day is not super relevant. Can I go beat guys that actually matter? Because he can. And so I knew I was going to have to prove it more than just that. And then I think we met up again in the finals of the Cyclone Open. And he beat me like 4-3 or something like that. And then, probably really where I took off and realized where I was is the Midland Championships, which back then was like, that was it. That was the tournament. Everyone was there. So like I'd I was just a redshirt freshman, second year college kid, had no idea where I was at as far as like varsity caliber D1 kids. And I ended up making the semis of that tournament.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a shock, I guess. It was a shock for me, and I'm sure it was a shock for, I don't think our coaches probably anticipated that. And then, hindsight now, I ended up getting sixth. I did the semi slide, which like after the fact realized the guys I wrestled the guy I lost in the semis ended up getting fourth at NCAAs. I dropped back to the Conci semis. I wrestled Gallic, who ended up finishing third at NCAAs. And then for fifth, I ended up wrestling the Old Dominion kid, who ended up actually as the national runner up. So like I wrestled the guys that got second, third, and fourth 3 times in a row. And it was competitive for the most part with them. I was beating the national finalists for a little bit. And so, I mean, I placed at the Midland. So like I kind of realized I was probably, hey, I think I could have a successful college career. I just have to buy my time with Nick Gallic, who still even had another year after that year. And, so going into that next year, kind of just anticipate I'm going to be the backup again. Obviously, I would take a lot for me to prove that I'm a better option than Nick. So, and I couldn't really manipulate any other way either. 33 was the same age kid who was a senior at the time, returning All-American, and then 49 was Mitch Mueller, who had gotten in the round of 12 a couple times, and I couldn't even compete with him. He was a stud. Just never really put it together for the national championship. So I was just kind of stuck where I was, but I was like, it's another year of development. I wasn't frustrated by it by any means. But then Nick ended up getting hurt, badly injured his hip, ended up having to have hip surgery, ended up being a career ender for him. So, I got the call essentially to be the guy. And so also the only thing that probably would have transitioned to me ever leaving there, if I was like frustrated at all and that I'm not going to be the guy next year, was because we went through the coaching change. So it was after my second year is when Cale had decided to leave. So, I mean, that was never anything we had anticipated or saw or could think was ever going to come about. So, and then just transferring wasn't a thing back then. So 1, I wasn't even thinking of it. 2, I was dating my now wife at the time. So like, I loved it there. I was happy there. I was just kind of really bummed that Cale was leaving. But stuck around. Yeah. Nick ended up getting hurt. So I ended up getting the call up, had a decent year. I mean, I was just inexperienced. I needed more time in that caliber lineup. And, again, hindsight looking back, because like I probably had a 6-week stretch there between January and February where I didn't win a match. And so I was like super down in the dumps. It was affecting me probably even performing to what I was capable of, because like I just couldn't scrap myself through to win. Now looking back at it, like I was just wrestling better guys than me. And I just, my non-conference schedule would be like, all right, this week we're going up to Dual Cornell, and I wrestled Kyle Dake. So like, I just wasn't really getting a break. And so, but when you're in the moment, like you don't see that. But now looking back, I'm like, I was just a young sophomore, and those guys were better than you. Like, so I was just wrestling All-Americans week in and week out. So I was kind of a long stretch of tough road. But like I had some good glimpses, like national duels. I lost to Reese Humphrey, who was ranked number 2 in the country, like 6-5. I had beaten I think Reese was ranked number 1 at the time. I don't think Dake was yet. I had pinned the number 2 or 3 ranked kid in the country at national duels. And then a couple weeks later, I pinned the number 9 ranked kid at a home duel from Illinois. So like some rankings I was popping in and out of the top 10, and then by the time I hit that stretch, kind of had dropped back down. So I was having some decent success. I ended up qualifying for nationals. I went 1 and 2. So I was probably just I was a 20 to 30 guy, and with maybe more time could have started climbing up. But just kind of at that time just realized it wasn't the right fit for me anymore. I just didn't really adjust to the coaching change the best. So honestly, at that time, my plan was to quit. Just didn't really. I lost the passion for it, and again, just didn't really feel like it was the right fit. Didn't feel like I adjusted very well to that coaching staff, and I was going to quit. I wasn't going to transfer because I was dating my now wife, and I liked Iowa State. I liked it there. I just didn't really. I lost the feel for wrestling, and so I was just going to quit and go to school. And she's like, you need to keep competing. You need to go find a place. And I'd called there was no transfer portal back then. Transferring was very, very restrictive, because probably the place that would have made the most sense for me would have been UNI, because I would have been able to stay fairly local. I think at that time Schwab had just taken over the program, and I would have been their best option as far as that my weight class. Like I would have fit in well for their needs, but I couldn't transfer anywhere in state, in conference, or on our schedule. So I mean, by the time you look at that, like I don't even know what the closest Division I could even have gone to. But again, it wasn't even my priority. I never even really thought about it. I didn't even think I was going to transfer. So, but I ended up, my wife saying that you need to look at some options. I think you need to keep wrestling. And so I only called one person. That was Mark Bauer here at UNK, because I enjoyed my recruiting visit here. I liked what they were doing. I liked where the program was. I liked their focus on you as a person and developing you in all aspects of your life. So I called him. I said, and he had told me when he recruited me, he said, "Hey, if anything, I totally understand. Kale came sat in your living room. Like, I get it. But he goes, if anything ever happens, give me a call. And this door's always open." So I gave him a call and went out on a visit a couple weeks after that. And I was like, yeah, this is the right place for me. So that's how I ended up here at UNK.
Wow. Did you ever think about UNO?
So they probably recruited me the heaviest out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
It was close by, good school.
Yeah.
Offered me the most money. It's like a lot would have made sense for me to go to UNO. Ironically, the second time around on recruiting, they did talk to me. So I mean, like obviously no transfer portal, but people hear things. So there was a couple people that gave me a call. I think Wartburg, Grandview, and UNO had given me a call about transferring. Well, so I still had 2 years left eligibility. So that was my junior year. I mean, I ended up finishing second in the country here. I lost to a UNO guy in the finals, so they didn't need me. So
yeah. So gosh, that's an interesting story. I was wondering how that all ended with you transferring, because you said you liked the school. It was still somewhat local. You had your wife there, well, girlfriend, now wife, like you had all these things going for you. Was it difficult to finally to transfer, like to actually say, okay, yep, this is what I'm going to do? I mean, it seemed like it took some convincing, a lot of convincing.
Yeah, because I didn't figure this out until it was probably July.
Wow. Okay.
I had worked, I had done camp. I could just tell Iowa State, I didn't like where the direction the program was heading. It just didn't feel like the right fit for me anymore. It wasn't why I had gone there. And again, kind of all those reasons, it kind of helped me. That's why I lost that passion kind of for the sport. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, the idea of leaving, especially, I was young and dumb and, puppy love, and like, I can't leave. This will ruin us. Like so, and again, I liked the school and everything. Like there was nothing, I didn't want to leave. And so I certainly didn't want to leave who I knew and probably was going to be my wife. So like that part was probably the toughest part for me. But I mean, hindsight, it was like, we laugh about it now because we thought it was a big deal at the time, but we're like, we were apart. She only had one more year of school left because she was like, we were the same age, but she's a normal person and doesn't redshirt. So, so she was graduating that next year. So, I mean, we were apart for like 10 months, like not even. So, I mean, now we look at it like, gosh, should have been like 15 months. Like, now we're sick of each other. No.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, she moved to Kearney, after she had graduated and got a job. So, I mean, we really weren't apart that long, and it wasn't that big a deal in hindsight. So, but it was tough. I mean, no one likes change. I'm pretty routine, and I think things through and pretty analytical. So, like, the idea of me leaving was like something I'd never thought about, and it's something I didn't want to have to adjust to. But it was the right time and right fit for me to come here. And gosh, I mean, everything's worked out. I mean, there's sometimes people will say like, what if Kale would have never left? Well, yeah, probably if Kale never left, I would have never left. But like, I'm glad he did, I guess. Like, I mean, everything worked out for me. I can't imagine me being in the same scenario I'm in now, hadn't I finished my career there, or having success or not. Say I would have snuck on the podium once or twice and got 7th at NCAAs. Like, I couldn't have set myself up for a better trajectory of the career I'm in now had I not come here, and everything just kind of lined up. And again, it was just kind of the right time, right place for a lot of the reasons I'm in the situation I'm in now. But I mean, like, I truly believe this is, not to fast forward too much, like this is one of the best coaching and wrestling opportunities in the country for the resources and the support and the access to a national championship. I just think this place is perfect and the right fit for me.
Yeah, what's it mean to have an athletic director? Like, it's pretty rare to have an AD who, basically you're his successor, who's invested in the sport, who's from the sport. I mean, I'm trying to even imagine or think about other ADs that I know across the country, and I'm like, none of them really come to mind that are wrestling ingrained,
Sure. No, I mean, that's huge. I mean, there's an aspect of, he was a three-time national championship coach. So I mean, he's got it figured out, and he kind of helped really establish this program. So like when I took over, it wasn't broken by any means. So we had a little bit of the blueprints for success, but also the sport's adapting and changing and evolving. So needed to put my mark on it, but like he has no ego involved. And that was something that he had said to me is, make this your own. And he truly meant that, like, stamp your legacy, your character, your personality in this program. And he knew he had success with it, but again, with how the sport's always evolving and changing, like I needed to keep up with the times, and it was my time. And so he's still a mentor for me, and he's there and supportive of the program. And again, like, I think if Forbes magazine was to put out like the best universities with wrestling, and they look at variables of things like your administrative support, community support, and access to national championships, and the scholarships, and your budget and things like that. I mean, I think this is looking at all divisions, all across the board for college men's wrestling. Like, I think this is a top 50, top 40 opportunity. And so like I'm just really blessed to be in this opportunity, and there's a lot of it just being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, when did you decide coaching might be the path that you want to go down?
Honestly, right before I left, I didn't, obviously staying at Iowa State, there probably wouldn't have been unless I went and won a couple national titles, there wasn't gonna be really an opportunity for me to jump on a staff like at Iowa State or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't really thought about it there. But when I had locked into the idea of transferring, I had kind of just said, I think I want to keep being involved in the sport after college. So my recruiting process turned into, hey, would I have an opportunity to also, I was thinking more than just 2 years. Like, I didn't want to have to go through a change again, coming here for 2 years and go find a normal job and move away again. So like, I was like, would there be an opportunity to coach as well? And Bauer had said, if you come here, I will also have you as my grad assistant when you're done. So now it turned in from a 2-year to a 4-year commitment, which was a little more settling for me, knowing like, hey, I'm not just doing something temporarily and have to go up. My wife's going to move here at that point for a year, and then we have to go leave again. So the idea of being here for at least 4 years was really settling for me, and something I knew I wanted to get down that path. So, and it just kind of turned into, again, all the right timing, right place. But after my senior year, to go on to be that grad assistant, our head assistant coach had quit and took the head high school job and a teaching job there. So it wasn't a full-time position yet at that time. He was basically just getting supplemented through like our events and stuff. So essentially I was going to be a GA, but also I was taking over the role as the head assistant, even though that was really just a title. It wasn't a full-time position, but Bauer was able to give me a little bit more money to make it more like kind of like a salaried position. And then after my second year of that head assistant role, well, it's kind of like, well, now what? Because this isn't a full-time position. Like, I need to, I'm not going to just keep doing this for change. Like, I'd like to, but like my wife probably doesn't want me to. So
exactly. Yeah.
And at that time, like, our athletic director liked what I was doing and liked the value I added to the program. So he made it a permanent position. So he fully funded that as head assistant role into being a fully salaried position. So that was relieving, got to stay. And then, I was only in that for another 2 years before Bauer decided to start his doctorate, and then ultimately ended up becoming our athletic director. So I took over the program in 2016 after being assistant coach for 4 years.
Wow. Yeah, did you feel, was it kind of a shock that Bauer left? I think from the outside it may have been a little bit because, like, it seemed like he still had some years in him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still going to probably work for another 10 years. I mean, it's not like he's old. He's probably 50, 55, 55, I think. So, I mean, he's still got five. I mean, he could probably retire, but he'll work for another 5 to 10 years, I bet, as the athletic director. Um, so, I mean, at that time, so 10 years ago, he was he's competitive and so competitive to the point of he likes challenges and he likes new challenges. So, I mean, it's funny because like you see coaches like a Nick Mitchell,
Yeah.
like a Brands, like a Kale, and those guys just want to keep winning. They're so competitive, they want to keep winning repetitively. Um, Equally so, Bauer's so competitive, he wants to solve another puzzle. So yeah, he could have kept doing this and kept finding success, and he would probably have same as me. Probably would have picked up another couple national titles since then. So uh, I guess that wasn't enough for him. He feel like he had more. He's very intellectual, and he's a hard worker. So I mean, with that, there's a lot of areas you can add value to. So like he wanted a new challenge. He wanted to go tackle a doctorate, and ultimately wanted to become the athletic director. So for him, the timing kind of worked out well for him as well. So that in that aspect, he had always told me that he wanted to help me become ready to take over this program, and that eventually he was going to be ready for a new challenge. He just didn't know what that was going to be or when it was going to be, and it kind of probably happened sooner than we thought or anticipated it was gonna happen. So all this kind of worked out, and yeah.
Yeah. Now you've been the coach for 9 years? Has it
Yeah,
eight
this will
years?
be I'm going on my 10th.
Jeez.
I know, I'm
Does
old.
it, I know, does it feel like that?
No, not really. I mean, sometimes when you kind of reflect back on, you try remembering like those first teams and you try like who was all on that team, like who was our all Americans in 2013. Like it's hard to remember some of the, you just kind of reprogram and get ready for the next year. And so yeah, when you start to reflect back and trying to remember teams and you realize you can't, you're like, oh, I've been doing this. Maybe I have been doing this for a while, or I'm getting memory loss.
Who would that would that have been Destin McCauley?
Yeah, so he came in 2013 or 2014. 2014, I think he came in, or maybe the fall of 2013.
Okay.
And some of that connection was we had a 157 pounder at the time, Chase White, that was an All American as a freshman he had worked out with them and was kind of loose friends with them from back in the day. But also, I kind of had a connection with him too because he used to come down to Golden Eagles. Uh,
Really?
so I mean, I was a fresh coach there at the time, but I mean, I was maybe 25. He was, he transferred. He was probably 20. So I'm probably like 5 years older than him. But he used to be a little runt that was his dad was driving him down from Sioux City all the way down to Underwood, Iowa, a couple of times a week, and he was coming to working out at Golden Eagles. So I was familiar with him and his family, so it kind of helped with the connection of getting him here.
Yeah. I just didn't was that first class that you coached? Or not quite?
So I think he came in that second year. I was an assistant
Okay.
coach. The first year I was an assistant, we won it again because we won it my senior year, and then we won it my first year as assistant coach, which was almost we won it back to back years, but it was almost a completely different team, other than Rafian Stotts, who had won it both those years as a junior senior. Other than that, pretty much all of our All Americans from 2013, from 2012, I think we're all different.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be a fun ride, especially since you were on both teams. So you got to
Yeah, it was
experience
kind of
both.
unique. I mean, it was you get kind of spoiled pretty quick. Obviously we was able to finish my career with the best possible way, winning an individual and team title, and then you hop on coaching staff and then you win it again and you're like, this is normal. This is just what we do,
Yeah.
and then the next 2 years we get second and second. And I was like, what is happening? Like, and you realize like, this is hard. Like it's actually, it's a lot harder on the coaching aspect because there's just so many different variables and you don't really have control over it. Whereas as an athlete, like everything I do and compete, when I go walking on the mat, like I have control over. So like you kind of lose that a little bit as a coach. So that was kind of like the toughest transition. But also, yeah, we were kind of just spoiled with really good teams, really good recruits that we were able to win it back-to-back years. And then it took us 8-9 years to get it back. So
How do you, as a coach, how do you handle the roller coaster that is this, the super regional tournament and the national tournament, of watching a guy put in all this time and effort and come up short, but you have to keep it together essentially and coach this next guy hard too, because he's chasing something. Like, I just feel like that roller coaster. I'm just curious how you stay on the tracks, man.
no, for sure. I mean, that's tough because you know, your your feelings ride on all your qualifiers, right? You want what they want. They all want to be national champs. So like, you see them lose and you're crushed, and you kind of have to be. And maybe after doing it for so long, you get a little bit more numb each year, I guess. And I don't want to say that in a negative way, as if like I don't feel for the guys, because I really do. But you just realize professionally, me carrying that negative energy over the next mat isn't going to be beneficial at all. So maybe I was probably a little bit more emotional in my younger years of coaching. I'm still young, but in my earlier years of coaching, whereas now I'm kind of just when you know something's going to happen, it makes it a little bit easier, right? Not that I know a kid's going to lose, but I just know we're going to the national tournament. Guys are going to lose. So things are going to happen. Sometimes they're going to lose to someone they shouldn't have. Like that, I've seen it enough times. It happens every national tournament. So like when you know that and have seen it enough times, you're a little less emotional to it. And again, just professionally knowing it's not going to be worth my value, carrying that negative energy with me to the next guy. I'm able to kind of control it. My wife jokes that I'm already pretty emotionless. She talks about my one feeling. She's like, so I think I'm able to actually keep it pretty well reined in. Whereas that's probably more of a personality. I'm a little bit of an introvert, probably naturally. So it's a little bit easier for me than it might be for some.
Yeah, is that how you sort of got Andrew Sorensen on staff? Is he's kind of the yin to your yang, if you will?
That's exactly right. So I mean, and obviously we were friends and we'd always talk about coaching together. So that.
Did you room with him at Iowa State?
Yeah. So I mean, that whole saga with Iowa State, I mean, we were in that together. I mean, we went on that recruiting visit together. We roomed together at the hotel room there. And then Kale went and did both our home visits the same day. So he drove to Missouri Valley and then he drove up to Woden, Iowa, which that was a long day for him.
Yeah.
Hindsight, we probably thought it was normal. Like, yeah, he's doing both. He's seeing both of us today. I'm like, that's like a 10-hour commitment. So yeah, we'd room together at Iowa State. We were both best men in each other's weddings. So I mean, we'd always kind of talked about, we'll get the opportunity to coach together someday. So something else that Bauer told me besides make it my own was when he had hired me, he was so honest with himself. He goes, I'm erratic. I'm irrational. Like I run with ideas without thinking them through. Sometimes I'm very emotional. He goes, you're more reserved. You're more business minded. You're more analytical. He goes, that balance is what I need. And I would have never thought about that. You almost just think about just hiring people that are like-minded and think just like you. But that wasn't important for him. He wanted someone that counterbalanced his weak areas. And so for me, it was the same thing. I was like, well, yeah, besides the fact that the emotional part of, I want to coach with Andrew, who's my best friend, and he's a high-level wrestler and skilled. He's the best. Like, he's great. So I knew he'd fit that in that aspect. But in the areas I'm weak, like I'm quiet, I'm reserved. Sometimes that's not going to connect with all of our athletes. Sometimes they need a guy that's going to be a little bit more stern and loud and vocal and things like that. So, I mean, and a lot of those, he's more intense than me and things like that. Like, I want to be able to connect with all 40 of our athletes, and just my personality alone. There's probably times that all of them need my personality, and there's times that all of them need his personality. So together, yeah, we balance each other well. And I think that's important you're talking about peaking and getting guys to compete at their best. I think they need a little bit of that too. In that mentoring is guys that are connecting with them on different coaches that connect with them on different levels.
Yeah. How do you figure out, I mean, every year, like you said earlier, the 2 times you won the national tournament, you were a part of it. The next year, it was like a totally different group of guys. I mean, I feel like every year you're pulling different strings. You're like a conductor, if you will, and each year you're pulling different strings at different times. Or do you have sort of a baseline of like, this is how things are going to go? We may adjust a little bit here and there, but this is essentially like, is that, is that the way it is?
Kind of, I mean, yeah, you kind of have your plan and, as far as your training, as far as your competition stuff. I mean, as far as connecting with each guy individually, I got framed posters of our two national championship teams that I've been a part of as a head coach here. And both teams were just like completely different. Um, that first national championship that I'd won as a head coach in 2022 with like a guys like Matt Malcolm as seniors, like a lot of those guys were COVID seniors.
Yeah.
So they were 6-year guys. I almost thought of them and treated them almost in a way of like as if they were, because we had, I think 4 of those national qualifiers, if not 5 of them, were in that boat. And altogether, I think we had 7 guys on the team that were COVID seniors. I almost treated them as if they were assistant coaches. I really let them buy in on the process, and I asked them questions a lot. And I was really reserved on them as far as competition goes and training goes. Like I gave them lots of days off. Their match count was super low compared to normal because those guys were 24 years old, and they were already proven. Like almost all those guys were 3 or 4 time all, in Matt's case, 5-time All Americans. Like they'd been there, done it. So like they just needed to be healthy at the national tournament. And we were going to be fine. So that was like in some aspects that was like it was almost easy that year because those guys already knew what to expect. They knew how to operate. So it was very trusting of them. I don't want to say that wasn't the case this year, but it was a little bit of a newer crowd, newer group. Some of them young, some of them old. A lot of them hopping on the podium for the first time. So maybe a little bit different in that aspect, but we always want to have a good coach athlete relationship and connecting with our guys. I always think about what makes this guy tick. And so what gets this guy to perform at a high level? Because it's different for everybody. Some guys need to be like, I think about old teammates, like a John Reeder, who's going to be like amped up and have that crazy look in his eye for about an hour before his match. And then he's going to go beat the crap out of somebody for 7 minutes. Some guys like might not stand up until, 2 matches out. And some guys you need to go joke around with them to keep them relaxed. Some guys want to be serious. Some guys want space. Some guys want you there. Everyone's a little bit different. It's like, I'm trying to figure that out constantly with our guys. You hope you have it figured out by postseason. What makes that guy tick? What does he need to perform his best? What's he need from me? Because I think coaches are just cheerleaders by the time it comes to competing in postseason. Like everything's figured out, all the work's done. You're the one that has to go out on the mat. It's like, what can I do to just support you? And so again, every guy's a little bit different there. And some guys I know I might have to go tell a different assistant coach, like, hey, you go be around him in the back at nationals while I'm out with a different kid coaching because I know he's more comfortable around you or whatever it might be. It's just kind of piecing together what that kid needs and what support he needs to be successful. So in that case, yeah, everyone's different. And that's what I thought was funny about this team because I thought not that they weren't needy by any means, but I feel like this year's team, each of them just had different aspects of what they needed and wanted. But for the most part, they're pretty low maintenance. And then that 2022 team earlier in those guys' career, like 2 years prior or the year prior, those guys I thought were like, they were pretty needy and figuring out like some of them were just too emotional, right? And they'd get too wrapped up into things and it would affect their performance and things like that. I think that really showcased the year before when we lost at nationals with almost the same team. We lost by 1.5 points. But they were just too wrapped up into each other's matches and they were just getting too emotional. And like the next year they just had it figured out. I mean, they'd been there, done it. They were 24 years old. So, I mean, they were multiple time All-Americans. So, I mean, that by that point they were pretty like hands off, low maintenance. We're just going to go do our thing.
Yeah. How much fun was this past national tournament when, I mean, I don't want to say you had it wrapped up essentially after the first day, but I mean, not mathematically, but I mean, you jumped early. You got out there, you jumped early and basically hit everyone in the mouth. And When you go and do something like that, how do you keep the foot on the gas pedal? Like, because there's still so much tournament left. Yeah, we got this big lead, but and we ain't done yet. But it seemed like it, just from a point perspective wise. But how do you keep them focused that the job's not finished yet?
Um, Sometimes learning the lesson the hard way. So I mean, it's a little bit in our verbiage of how we're talking to the guys, but I mean that we make examples of that 21 and 2022 team because it was virtually again the same team. 21 we lose by a point and a half. 22 we win by 41 points. Like, and it was really just a hard learning lesson of like, and sometimes stuff just happens. It's college sports. Like things just happen. And in 2021, like we just didn't put it in our hands. Like we just thought we were good enough. The guys they didn't go, they weren't aggressive. They sat and waited around. And like that second day, I don't even remember in 21 if we were winning going into the second day. I think we were. But the second day, I mean, we just kind of just lost a ton of matches that we just were being reserved and not putting in our hands and not taking any risks and just thought good things would happen without doing anything. And we paid for it. And in 2022, I was like, that was like our biggest preaching moment was like, put it in your hands and like, go score points, go have fun instead of sitting and waiting. Like, that's not fun. So, I mean, and then that they really did that. So I mean, this year, even kind of same thing. Yeah, you go into that second and first day. With hindsight, I guess we didn't need to score anymore. We did have enough points.
Isn't that crazy?
Because no one scored over that many points by the second day. So, like you're cautiously, as if like you're going to put bad words into the air, not even around the guys, even just us talking as a staff that night. We're just like, I'm like, I think we won, and I'm like, Andrew's like, no, we didn't. Like something could happen. And I was like, we're up by 31 points. Like things could happen, but I'm like, it would have to go really bad. And so, but I mean, the talk with the guys was like, you still have to go put this in your hands. Like you got to go separate yourself. And yeah, I mean, we started the next day and I can almost felt, I think that first round, we went I think we had 10 national qualifiers. 2 were beat out by that point. So we had 8 matches, that first round, and we went like 6-2. So I mean, it kind of almost felt like we couldn't lose there for a bit, and it was really went our way, and just like really spread that gap. So I mean, that makes that morning like you want to win a team national title, but you also want the process of going through it to feel like you're winning a national title. So like in 2021. We talked about it after the tournament. We were winning going into the final match of the tournament, the heavyweight for St. Cloud. And we were winning by 2 points or whatever it was. And that St. Cloud kid won. And then they jumped us. So like we were sitting there watching a national tournament, watching that match, hoping he loses. So we're national champs. And I'm like, would that even, it would have been. Like it would have been cool. Like we would have been national champs. But like that wouldn't have been fun. Like that'd have been like the least like enjoyable sports moment in history is like we watched a kid lose and then we got to celebrate. Like that's crappy. So like that was again kind of the big thing is like that wouldn't have been a fun way to win. We want to win by putting it in our hands and scoring points, having fun and winning matches. And like so I get even just past just winning mathematically, we want to win emotionally, and we want to win for our crowd. We want to win for our support. We want to win internally and have that fun that day and actually enjoy. I kind of use the mantra of like, or not like you talk about, hey, let's go win a national title, and then like we're gonna go party and celebrate. Like us out on the mat that's the party. Like when we're competing, that's the parties. Like we want to have fun doing that and showcasing that. So I mean, like that was the most enjoyable thing really about both those years, which kind of is weird because like I thought particularly this year, I thought the top 3 teams were going to be within 10 to 15 points. I thought it was going to be a crazy tight team race, and we ended up winning by 52. I just would have never saw that coming. So it sounds bad, but almost both years it was almost anticlimactic. You kind of expect to be in that scenario where, and you kind of want it. We talk about it like as a sports moment. I think about the movie The Replacements, and Gene Hackman tells Keanu Reeves like, winners want the ball when the game's on the line. And like I would love to see a Crew Howard in the national finals next year, and we're we're in that St. Cloud scenario where he's down, we're in second place by 2 points, and if crew wins, the team wins. Like, I think that's cool. That'd be like really emotional, fun sports moment. Whereas again, not to be ungrateful, but it was like just weird. The last 2 championships we won, that was like almost anticlimactic, and you kind of missed that part of it.
I think so. I talked to Matt Malcolm, and he said the same thing about that championship team. He's like, we just like blew everyone out of the water, and like that was fun. But yeah, he kind of, I don't want to say wish, because obviously, like you're saying, they won. That's great, but there was a little piece that was like, man, it would have been nice if it would have been cooler, I guess, if it was a little closer and it was like, back and forth. But
yeah, every sports movie has that, but then if you go win by a lot, then you don't get that.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask real quick about Nick James, because that's how this connection even happened here.
Sure.
When I talked to him, like from his perspective, I got his a little bit, but from your perspective, I mean, did you have an inclination that he was wanting to come back and wrestle? Like, how did that even start to process in your brain? Like, maybe this could be a thing.
Yeah. I hadn't really considered him at all until, I was very respectful I knew he wanted to be done. And, when someone gets in that mindset, you're not going to probably change them. It has to be their idea. So like, even knowing he had that COVID year, that was never his intention. He wanted just to be done, help coach, and move on with his life. So like, had never thought about it until, we had St. Cloud down to duel, and undoubtedly the best team. They just won national duels a couple weeks earlier. Undoubtedly the favorite to win nationals just with what they have. And so it's kind of, we were just curious to see where we're at. And yeah, you lose by a point in the duel. Our national finalist at 25 was out. So, I mean, with him in that duel, likely would have won, even though butterfly effect, maybe he wins and then something happens differently. But, felt like we won matchups, like, and all the ranked matchups that we were lower in, like, we won. So even though they won the duel, we actually rose our stock tremendously. And I was like, I think we just lost that duel. And I was like, I think we're probably going to be ranked number 1 in the country in the next polls because of just the right guys won. Mm-hmm. So I was like, they probably feel like they lost that duel because they're going to drop a bunch of guys in the rankings. Not that the rankings mean anything, but they're a little bit of reflective of what showcasing what we're going to see in March. And so I was like, this team, we are good. Like and I think we're right there. And, at 49, we have a young guy he's just been struggling through the year. He was dealing with injuries. He's young. But I think he's going to be really, really good for us. It was just showing that his time wasn't yet. I think it's going to be this year and the next couple of years. But so, you're sitting there thinking about, that's really our only place where I think we're missing out on some opportunity. And so, yeah, you sit there and think through things. I'm like, Nick James, Nick's got that year left at this point, a semester left. And we haven't started school. We do like a J term. So we didn't start school until like the last week of January. So I was like, and that St. Cloud duel was at the end of that week. So I'm like, I could still get him in classes next week. I go, I wonder if that's still all kosher, if he's still eligible and all that stuff. So like, I think I texted him that night or maybe the next day on Sunday and said, hey, would you be interested if you're eligible to come compete at 49? And he had been competing at 41, was a returning national finalist there. So, I mean, I was like, there's a little bit of attractiveness here of like, hey, you get to move up a weight. You don't have to worry about cutting. You only have to go train for about 8 more weeks and go do this. And he had text back something along the lines of, if I'm eligible to compete, I'll have a conversation about it. I was like, okay, I'll look into it on Monday. And I started calling our compliance officer like that night and started digging into it. And I was like, I think he's going to be good to go. So like, she's like, let me check right away in the morning. I'm like, I am going to be in your office at 8 a.m. So I was there and we're looking through it and called NCAA and looked at everything. I was like, yeah, I mean, he's good. He could have taken that semester off in the fall. That's no big deal. He still has this, as long as he uses it within this year. And so then I called him. I'm like, you're eligible. What do you think? And he's just like, let's do it. And so I think he had been stern on it all night too. And I think and talking to him afterwards too, I think he maybe already had called or maybe he did after the fact once he committed to it, but called guys like Matt Malcolm and some of the guys that are part of that 2022 championship team that were older, and they're like, and they were all just kind of reassured him of like, hell yeah, like why wouldn't you do that? Like I would love for another opportunity to do something like that, because I think Nick right away was kind of like maybe a little self-doubt of like, well, I'm out of shape, this is a new weight class, like this is a short amount of time. All very valuable things to be thinking about, all merited. And those guys just kind of reassured him, like, dude, that's awesome. Like, why would you not take advantage of that opportunity to go help Kearney win another national title, and you're going to be a lead piece of that. And so, I mean, like, that has like really helped him settled with the idea of like, hey, let's do this. And like, gosh, just kudos to him. Like, hindsight, like if you just look at it objectively on team points, we won by 52. He scored 16. We didn't need him. I don't think we're in that scenario. I think he elevated everyone's game around him to where everyone, you know, was probably, again, objectively to where we were ranked, seated, could have, should have placed each guy. We probably were in the bubble of scoring around 90, 95 points. That's where I thought we were going to be. And I still thought that was probably going to be enough to win it this year. But that's where I was projecting we would finish out. We ended up scoring 100, whatever it was, 15. So the fact that we overperformed by probably 25, 30 points, I think is because of him and the leadership and the value he brings to our program.
Yeah, when you have somebody like that walk in, basically you're saying this, like, we're like, you're not bringing this guy in to win a national title, but I mean, that's kind of the projection you're giving. Like, we're good enough to win a national title. This guy's going to put us over the top. So that puts in everyone's minds like, oh, we're going to win this thing, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I started telling, because obviously I needed to have that conversation with our current guy at 149 about the scenario. So I was a little sensitive to that, but also, you know, I was telling the other guys on the team. I mean, these guys have been watching and him operate for the last 4 years, and he's just always been a great leader and just a great example. He's a fighter, he's a brawler, like he wants to go out and compete, and so like these guys everyone just rallied around it and was so excited about it. But yeah, there was a little bit of a shift of, we already thought maybe after that duel, like, dang, I think we can go win it. And then you go like, they brought back a national finalist too, you know, and then Zach Rada, considering he wasn't in that duel and he had been ranked number 1 at part of the season too. So like everyone's mindset in the room was like, we're going to win it.
Yeah. Yeah. Lastly here, you know, you invest a lot into the sport, your time and effort and energy, but I like to ask people what they do to sort of take a break from the sport, kind of reset themselves, you know, because that's important too, you know. I mean, if you're not 100%, you know, then it just kind of trickle down effect. So like, how do you keep yourself fresh, motivated, you know, willing to come in every day and give it your all when that can be taxing at times, especially like during the season and stuff?
No, for sure. I mean, I do like to travel. My wife and I have been overseas a few times. You know, we like to vacation and travel as much as we can. I don't really have a lot of hobbies. So like, this is going to sound bad, like my work is my hobby, but I do get the fine balance of, and I just think college athletics requires this too. Obviously fundraising at a high level, ours a big chunk of that fundraising. We do have donors, we do have support that way too, but a big chunk of it is coming from us running these large events. So I have my undergrad in business, my master's in business. Like that's kind of my dad owned a business. Like I'm kind of programmed that way and I enjoy that aspect of it. So like growing these events and making them more efficient, making them more profitable. I really enjoy that side of things. And again, with college sports, like you have to be making money and to continue to have sustained success of, you know, for recruiting and for scholarships and NIL, if you're doing that and things like that, like you have to be making money. So like I actually do enjoy that business side of it, or running those events. And I mean, you know, we're fundraising well over $250,000 a year, which like if you look at the grand scheme of things, like Iowa State, you know, obviously they're doing probably a couple $1 million a year, but I think for our size of school and our level, I mean, like it's pretty sustainable, and it's pretty remarkable that we're raising that much money. So like I'm always thinking about that, and that's probably takes up just as much of my time as coaching is making those events more efficient and figuring out the fundraising aspect just to make our program more sustainable. So like I do find a little bit of joy and hobby in that, and it's just a different role than just like coaching on the mat and running practices and scheduling and stuff. Like that business side of it, although a lot of coaches I think hate it, like I actually really enjoy it. But no, like I said, my wife and I do enjoy vacationing, and but we do have a 2.5-year-old, so chasing him around and it can keep you busy. And then we have another one due here in October. So
nice, congratulations, that'll be nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. What does your wife do?
So that's funny because it was like I almost had Kearney seems like it's in the middle of nowhere, and it probably relatively is. Like the idea of her leaving Iowa, where she's been her whole life, close to her family. Not that this is that far away, but convincing her to come to Kearney and follow me, obviously besides a ring, took a little bit of commitment. Like, hey, this is a good community. There's a lot going on here. It's growing. It's really, really nice community. So I mean, it took a little bit of, she was at a little bit of reservation about coming out here. But she actually just took over. She took over as the city manager of Kearney last year.
Okay.
So I mean, like she's worked her way up in some different positions, and then found herself as she was the interim city manager for a year, and then last year took it over full gig. So I mean, like she's she's got like the best professional position probably in the city of Kearney, and it was like, dang, I had to convince you to come here, and like now you took over the city within like a decade.
Geez, yeah, you both almost have essentially, like.
Well, it's funny, like this, like going around with her to some of the events. Like, obviously, she has to go to some events with me and stuff like that. But I have, I go to some events with her with some big wigs at Kearney and around the state of Nebraska and things like that. And so it's like I'm just like her plus one, and I'm. Some people don't follow wrestling, so they don't know if our program's good or not. So like I'm just a wrestling coach. Like,
yeah, I'm just a wrestling coach. Yeah. I forgot about this note here. But your junior year, I noticed you pinned Jay Shearer in 17 seconds in the national semifinals. I just want to know how that went down.
I
like 17 seconds. I'm just like, that's
right. I had picked up when I was at Iowa State. I had picked up a move I started implementing a lot, and what would be known as, some people call it something different, but essentially the dresser dump, which is funny now that Kevin Dresser's back at Iowa State. But our 49-pounder Mitch Mueller used to do it all the time, pull a guy in front head and then going and chasing that leg underneath, and basically end up you hope if you can plant them on their back that you're going to go fall into like a bottom leg cradle. And I started doing it a lot because, our 49-pounder was doing it a lot, and he had short little arms. I'm like, this move makes way more sense for someone like me. So like I started doing it, and I'd gotten pretty good at it. And so I that kid was long and lanky, so I kind of planned on like, I'm going to snap him down right away and let him kind of posture up and go get it. And just the way he landed was perfect, and was able to capture that bottom leg cradle. And yeah.
Dang, that a wave of emotion there, because like you're already mentally preparing into national semifinals. It's gonna be a grind match. Like I'm gonna really have to dig deep maybe to win this, and then 17 seconds it's over. I mean,
it was and that we hosted nationals that year too, so that was pretty fun. That we had the biggest crowd there, and it was right here in Kearney.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, head coach Dalton Jensen, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. And you can also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And don't forget to check out my website at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care. See you next time.